Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Governor. I just have to say, with Congress's approval rating so low, the American people might like if we're only acting members of Congress.
No comment.
You know, having the privilege to serve as mayor during your time as governor, I could remember the bittersweet feeling I had the evening that President Bush made his announcement appointing the first Secretary of Homeland Security. It was bittersweet because I knew Pennsylvania was losing a great governor, but I also knew that the country was gaining a great leader. So I think it's fitting that you come here today and talk about leadership and the importance of that and what it means to have an effective organization. And you talked a lot about, and I agree that, you know, today's world is probably more dangerous than at any time in American history, whether it be here at home or around the world. The Office of Intelligence and Analysis is the federal government lead for sharing information and intelligence with state, local, tribal, and territorial governments and the private sector. It is these non-federal partners who now lead the Homeland Security enterprise in preventing and responding to evolving threats to the homeland. INA serves as the information conduit and intelligence advocate for state, local, tribal, and territorial governments. However, the Undersecretary for Intelligence and Analysis has been vacant for over a year. How is our intelligence capability being negatively impacted with a vacancy at this very important position?
One of the challenges that any Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security has under any administration is an appreciation by the public generally that the department itself does not have its own intelligence gathering mechanism. It relies heavily upon the alphabet agencies. The department's a consumer of information, doesn't generate much, generates a little bit. By and large, you know what I'm talking about. But it provides a valuable function to the Secretary, because even though the shop is a little smaller than most, it does have a capability to do its own independent analysis on behalf of the Secretary. And I am personally familiar, based on my experience, where our little shop, way back when, differed from the intelligence assessment it got from some of the bigger, more muscular and traditional agencies. And because of the respect of the individuals involved, they got together prior to giving the President an assessment and basically reoriented the approach and really changed the assessment. I don't want to say one responsibility or one position in upper management is more important than another within the Department of Homeland Security. But I can't imagine any position being more important to the Secretary than someone who has the ability and the requirement and the resourcefulness to communicate with on a daily basis the intelligence agencies, to take that information and make it relevant to the department, but also to state and local governments. And so, again, as you take a look at vacancies, you say to yourself, if you think the threat's real, you understand the department doesn't consume intelligence, is a consumer of intelligence, doesn't generate its own, and that position is vacant, what kind of information does the Secretary have? Who's communicating what to the locals? And, you know, it's very interesting. Chairman, Ranking Member Thompson said something very interesting, and I thought in his opening remarks, and I aligned myself with them. There has to be procedures, routine procedures. And one of the most routine procedures in my experience, and I think Secretary Chertoff, and I can't speak to Secretary Napolitano, is sustained engagement with the state and local governments in terms of information sharing. And if you don't have that information flowing primarily through the Department of Homeland Security, And then you've got a diffuse organization. They're getting bits and pieces from everybody else, and that's just unacceptable as far as I'm concerned in terms of furthering the mission of greater security for the United States of America. So I think it's deplorable that that position has been vacant for over a year. It's unacceptable.
I think we could see, what happened up in Boston and why it's so important that information sharing with federal, state, and local authorities.
But, one of the biggest challenges we had from 2003 forward, and I share with you just as a frame of reference, is that prior to the Department of Homeland Security being created, within the intelligence community there was a mindset and a notion that we'll share the information when we think you need to know it. And we said, no, it's a different time. Now it's need to share. I need to share with the governors, I need to share with the big city mayors, I need to share with the big city police chiefs and the like. And that is, I think, an integral function of the Department of Homeland Security. And the person most responsible for giving guidance to the Secretary is the kind of information to share. Not necessarily actionable, but needs to be shared, is that individual. And I just hope that they'll, for whatever reason, I'm not going to talk about the delay, it's vacant. You do Jay Johnson a great disservice if the Office of Personnel Management doesn't immediately send a qualified person to the Hill to get it confirmed, to work with him hand in glove.
Great seeing you, Governor.
Thank you. Thanks.